Let's go to Henry Bolton, international border expert, because on this day in history, the second failed asylum seeker, my friends, has left the United Kingdom. Set sail for Rwanda with £3,000 of taxpayers' money, which means in the best part of 14 years the Tories have sent 2 people to Rwanda. Henry Bolton, good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon, Jeremy.
I can't do this anymore, Henry. I've got the BBC advertise. Have you heard the BBC?
I suggest just a strong drink. That's all, Jeremy. I think that's
BBC bosses have advertised for a role where you can apply if you identify as dead. Rishi Sunak disbelieves that he can still win the election and is even saying that Boris Johnson can make a difference. And everybody on the Tory right is jumping up and down saying, we've sent a second person to Rwanda, Henry, whilst 170,000 are waiting to be processed. Please speak some sense, because I'm going mad.
I can't, Jeremy. I just can't. The whole thing beggars belief. We spoke about this a little while ago, and I pointed out that the only people they were going to get on flights for a very long time were the people that they bribed by paying £3,000 and told, look, you're going to be better off that way, because otherwise eventually we're going to send you back home. Please get on the plane to Rwanda, and here's £3,000. It's a bribe. Look, this government this election is not being won by Labour. No. It's being lost by the Conservative Party. It's being lost by a Conservative Party that, you just had James Price earlier. Look, there are people in the Conservative Party who have gone to Rishi Sunak and said, your Rwanda legislation is flawed. And members of his own parliamentary party, your legislation is flawed, your plan is flawed. Here's how to fix it. And Sunak has just not been interested. It is no wonder that party is in the state that it's in at the moment. Why? It's nonsensical. I don't understand the failure. It's beyond incompetence. But yeah, I would keep quiet about this. I wouldn't be lauding it as some great success. I'd be keeping quiet about it. It's an embarrassment that it's just, number two.
It's cost a lot of money. It's the second unnamed migrants. And in 3.5 weeks, if you believe every opinion poll, the Rwanda scheme's going to be scrapped. Can I go back to something you just said about Sunak? And people think I'm harsh on him. I'm harsh for a reason. He wanted this job. He brought Suella Braverman to knife Boris Johnson after Liz Truss's debacle, because Boris Johnson was ready to come back, flew from Greece, had the names. He said to Sunak, allegedly, listen, it's my majority. If we're going to lose, I'll take the rap. And you can know Sunak wanted to be Prime Minister. Fine. That's good. Walked up Downing Street, said, I'm going to do things differently. Hasn't. And in fact, I think has shown really poor judgment. Rwanda's an example. If you disagree with something, which he patently did, but he got himself elected by bringing Braverman, who wanted Rwanda, and then seems to support something that every sane person, including my 4-year-old, genuinely, and I mean this, would look through this and go, that's ludicrous. Where I don't understand, and you and I always end up hyperventilating. You're an international border control expert. I'm going to ask you a question. I've got 170,000, I'm the Prime Minister, Henry, I've got 170,000 people who I haven't processed, because apparently I haven't got a place to process them or staff that are trained to process them. Half of them have disappeared into my society and are either claiming benefits or committing crimes. What do I do? Because I need to sort this out. What do I do?
In a nutshell, you've got to, stop feeding the problem, which means you've got to address the boats, which means you've got to address the push factors, the way that they move. You've got to interdict the organised crime that's facilitating that movement all along the routes, not just in the Channel and France and the South Coast. And you've got to address the pull factors. You've got to stop feeding the problem, because otherwise the numbers just continue to grow. You've also got to do what actually is allowed in the Refugee Convention, Prime Minister. You have got to establish a secure detention facility for people that try to enter this country illegally, even if it's with the purpose of claiming asylum, so that you've got them in one place, maybe 3 places, in which you can provide all of the legal support, the welfare support, all of that stuff, and process their claims whilst they're there. And then you can get on top of the problem. But if you're going to continue feeding the problem, Prime Minister, and you're not going to provide some longer-term solution in terms of the accommodation and the processing and resource it properly, you, Prime Minister, are going to lose the next general election by a landslide.
And that's my point. And I don't understand. It's like, there are people like yourself not blowing smoke, you know it, we've known each other a long time, who know what they're talking about. I don't understand, I've never understood. I used to go, well, why would he die on that hill? I genuinely think that Sunak has bad judgment, has been found out at the very highest level, as probably the last 3 prime ministers have, 4 possibly, 5 even, because even David Cameron is now lauding it, saying, oh, you know, this... Hold on a second, mate, you held an election about Brexit, and when you got the answer you didn't want, you sulked off and went and did one. And so,
Jeremy, I think, look, if they don't agree with it, be honest and say, I don't agree, this is why.
Yeah.
If they do agree with it, otherwise they shouldn't be promising that they're going to deliver on something that they intend not to deliver on.
A Labour right,
Henry,
Henry.
Political disaster.
When Labour say they're going to attack, this is in their manifesto, they are going to deal with what they say is the root cause of illegal immigration and the problems we've got with the gangs. Are Labour, is Starmer right? Is that the root cause of the problem?
The gangs?
Yes.
Yeah, because the way that our failure to address the criminals will find a market whenever they can, wherever they can, and so we've got to address the gangs. But the way that they want to do it, mark my words, this is what they're going to do. They are going to attempt to join the EU's Migration and Asylum and Migration Pact, which will mean that all of these people coming across on the boats, or virtually all of them at the moment, we will take officially as our share of the EU's asylum claimants. That's what will happen. So they won't need to come across on a boat because Keir Starmer will join that pact. It's one of the things that I've asked this question a number of times, including of a Labour Party policy advisor, who said, well, of course, we're going to try and deal with the problem and we're going to have to work with the EU. They will not deny that that's what they're going to do. And so we will just simply be taking it. We'll be providing aircraft or ships to bring them over. That's exactly what will happen, Jeremy. You mark my words. And I'd like to see somebody take Starmer on directly and ask him that question. Are you planning to do this? The country needs to know.
Listen, I love having you on, Henry. You speak our language. You really appreciate it. Henry Bolton, international border control expert. Always welcome on Talk.